Hey guys, welcome back to AP Macroeconomics. Today we're learning our very first graph, so that's very exciting. It's called the Production Possibilities Frontier Curve Graph, or PPF for short. Sometimes you might see it referred to as PPC, PPFC, PPF Curve. That's how I've learned it, so that's how I've always said it. And you can see what it looks like on the screen. So it's a graph that shows several things. First, let's look at the title of it, Production Possibilities. This graph shows us our possible levels of production, not like what people want, but what we can produce with the resources that we have available to us. And the other day we talked about resources: land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, human capital, all these resources we have available. And this graph shows us what we can make with the resources that we have. It is an actual curve. It's kind of silly that our very first graph starts off with a curve like this, because if you hear the term curve in economics, that just means line on a graph. Our very first one just happens to be curvy, but you could have a straight line that has a constant slope, and that's still going to be a curve in economics. So don't let the word curve throw you off. Okay. So you see, we have a graph between two products, and the PPF curve is always between two different products, an X product and a Y product, or an X product and a Y product. So we have food and clothes. Usually in beginning economics classes, they're going to always have the same example on a PPF curve, and it's between guns and butter, like butter, like spreading butter. This is not actual butter. This is just code for meaning the government has two choices of how to spend its money: guns or butter. Gun being military spending. So think of obviously the military, but then border patrol and things like that. And then you have butter, which is going to be your domestic programs: welfare, social security, education, infrastructure, things like that. So the government can choose to spend all of their resources towards one, all towards the other, a combination of them, somewhere in the middle. It just depends. So let's talk about what is illustrated in this graph. Here we have choice illustrated. And we talked about choice yesterday, and that's basically what economics is, the study of. So you see, we have a graph between food and clothes units. You see at point A represents, if I could just move the screen, I want a pointer. Let me grab that. There we go. Hopefully that little bar will go away. If anyone knows to tell me how it'll go away, if I can just make it minimize. That's not it. More. Nope. Okay. Well, that's just going to be the way that it is. No. Okay. So at point A, that represents all of our resources, all land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, towards clothing production. And you see, it's going to be a little bit over 150 clothes, because at D, that's 150 clothes. So it's a little bit more than that. I don't really know. At point B, way over here, we have all of our resources making food. Every single dollar that this economy has is in the production of food. Every human that is working is making food, and we can make 100 food units at point B. Of course, if we're at the two ends of the extreme, if we're at point B, yeah, we're making all food, but that means we're not making any clothes. And if we were at point A, like we just were, we're making all clothes, but we're not making any food. So how is choice illustrated in this graph is where you are on the graph. The point says this is our choice. We are making all food, or we're making all clothes, or something in between. So C and D are points on the actual curve on the frontier line itself, and those represent combinations. So you see at point C, you go over and see where you hit the axes. At point C, we are at 75 food units and 100 clothing units. At point D, we're at 50 food units and 150 clothing units. This graph also shows efficiency, whether you're being efficient with your resources. Like, look at point E. Point E, you're inside the curve. You're making, I don't know, a little over 50 food units and a little over 100 clothes units, but you have all these resources that you're not using. If you're at a point inside the curve, you could make more with the resources that you have, but you're choosing not to. So you're being inefficient. So points inside the curve are inefficient. Points on the curve are efficient. What about point outside the curve? Look at point F. That's going to be like 75 food units and I don't know, like 135 clothing units. We don't have enough resources for that because of scarcity. So we can't do F level of production. It's just not possible. And that's what this graph shows us. What is possible? Production possibilities. F is not possible. E is possible, but it's inefficient. We want to be somewhere on the A, B, C, D range. So whether it's all clothes, all food, or some combination in between. So that's how it shows scarcity, is because F is just not possible because of scarcity. And we talked about opportunity cost yesterday. If you remember, opportunity cost is what you give up to get something else. And so opportunity cost is what you lose, what you're no longer able to make because you're making something else. So let's talk about food and clothing on our graph again. If you're at level point B and you're making all foods, you're giving up the opportunity to make clothes because you're using all of your resources towards food units. Same thing if you're at point A, all of your resources are going towards clothes. None of it's going towards food. So you can't produce food. You lose the opportunity to produce food. So I want to show you, is it this graph right here? Okay. That one's kind of hard to do. Let me look at the first one. This one's not too bad. Let's say that I'm at point D and I'm making 50 food units and 150 clothing units. But I don't want 50 food units, I want more. Let's say that I want 75 food units. So I'm going to go all the way up to 75 on my y-axis, on my food axis. Can I continue producing 150 clothes units also while getting my 75 food units? I can't. I don't have enough resources. I have to stay on the curve if I want to have it be possible. And so if I go from point D to point C on this graph, I'm getting more food units. I'm getting 25 more food units. But what did it cost me? What it cost me is opportunity cost. So what did 75 food units cost? You might think, oh, it costs 100 clothing units. That's not what it costs you, though. That's what you're now going to have to make. You were making 150 clothes units. Now you're only going to make 100 clothes units. So what did you lose? What did you give up? What are you no longer going to be able to do? The difference, 50 clothes units is what you're giving up. So when you go from D to C, you gain 25 food units, but you lose 50 clothing units. So the cost of that 75 units of food is 50 units of clothes. So food costs clothes, and you could go the other way around. You could go from C to D to get more clothes and lose some amount of food. So we're talking about how much did you give up? How much did you lose when you're going from one point to another? The thing about producing an E, which is, remember, inside the graph, if you're at point E and you're being inefficient, you're not using all your resources, you could go to any point on the curve and get more without losing anything. Like you can go from E to C or E to D and not lose any of the other units. So you get more without any cost, which is why it's not good to be inefficient, because you could be getting more without any loss to yourself. Why would you not do that? That's stupid. So we're going to stay on the frontier. Okay, so I'm going to post a couple questions here, see if you guys can figure it out. I'll give you a little brain break, and then we're going to go back and you see that there's some assumptions right here. Make sure you wrote that down. There's only 2 units. We're going to assume the resources are fixed while I'm talking about it. We're going to assume that we're fully employed on the curve, on the actual curve itself. We're fully employed. So I'll give you some time to answer some questions, and then we'll move on. Okay, so remember how I said that PPF curves, like the word curve, kind of throws you off because everyone always assumes that curve means that it's curvy? No, it just means line on a graph. So if you look on the screen, you see that we have 2 PPF curves that have different slopes. The one that you just saw before kind of looks similar to this one. It's actually curvy, but then we have this one over here that's a straight line, but they're both PPF curves. So what do the slopes mean? Why are they different? Well, slopes show opportunity cost. Like, what is the opportunity cost? Well, look at the slope. It'll tell you. This one right here, the one that's actually curvy, is called an increasing opportunity cost PPF curve because the opportunity cost increases, meaning the more you make of one, the more and more and more you're going to have to lose of the other. It's not like lose one, get one. It's like lose one, get one, lose 5, get another, lose 10 to get another. The opportunity cost increases throughout. If it's a constant PPF curve, that means there's constant slope, then it's going to look similar to this. Look how the ratio is the same. If we have broccoli on one axis, pizza on the other. Let's say that we're at point 2 right here, where we're making 20 broccolis and 20 pizzas. Well, if we want to make like 20 more pizzas, we lose 5 broccolis because we went from 20 to broccolis to 15 broccolis, so that's a loss of 5. Well, what if I want to make 20 more pizzas? Well, I still lose 5 broccolis. What about 20 more pizzas? I still lose 5 broccolis. It's the same. The slope is the same. So what's the point? What's the difference? When products have similar resources, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, human capital, when similar FOPs go into making them, then they're going to have a constant slope. Like broccoli and pizza are both foods. Yes, I know they're made of different ingredients, but they're in the same category of food. They're pretty similar. So it's going to have a constant PPF curve. But here we have food and computers, completely different resources. There's no overlapping here. And so that's where we have an increasing PPF curve. So the more similar the resources are, the more constant, more like straight the line curve is going to be. But when we have resources that are completely different, going into different things like skateboards and pillows, have nothing to do with each other in terms of resources to make them. So that's going to be an increasing PPF curve. But like cakes and cookies, they're basically the same ingredients, just different amounts of them. So that's going to be a constant PPF curve. And I'm going to move my head really quick. I wonder if I can. Yes, I can. I'm going to move myself over here. What a rush. Okay, so let's see if we can read this PPF curve really quick. It says, let's say that we are point Q. At point Q, we're making 11 food units and 5 computers. But I want to make one more computer. I want to make 6 computers. Well, I can't continue making 11 food units. I'm going to have to give up some amount of food to produce that computer unit. I'm going to have to give up 1 food unit. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. I lost 1 food. I got 1 computer. All right. But at point T, now I'm making 8 food units and 9 computers. Well, once again, I want 1 more computer. I want 10 computers. Well, I can't continue making 8 foods. I'm going to have to lose some food. I'm going to have to lose 3. Wait, before I only lost 1 food to get a computer. Now I have to lose 3 foods to get a computer. Yeah, the slope has increased. And slope means opportunity cost. So the opportunity cost has increased. The cost of what I had to give up, of how many foods I had to give up, increases. Okay. that is all we are doing today. I'm trying to go to the next slide just to see. But it's not letting me. Can I just click? There we go. Okay, we're going to work on shifting the PPF curve tomorrow, but I just wanted to leave you off with just a review of what we just talked about. Our PPF curve is showing what we can produce with the resources that we have. We've got two goods. We can be anywhere on that frontier with our resources. We can be inside our curve, but that's not very efficient. We definitely can't be outside the curve because of scarcity. We don't have enough resources. And the curve shows us how much our choice is going to cost us, whether we choose to make broccoli or pizza or computers or food or guns or butter. It's going to cost us the other thing, whatever that is. And so, how much it's going to cost us depends on the slope. And the slope depends on what resources are being used, whether they're similar resources or different resources. All right, guys, have a great afternoon. I will see you guys later. Bye. Bye. Slowly but surely. All right, bye.